In 2012, biologists conducting night surveys across 39,000 hectares of the Everglades recorded 0 marsh rabbits. Not scarce. 0. A species that once numbered in the hundreds of thousands had vanished from the detection record entirely. The python does not see its prey. It reads heat signatures through labial pits along its jaw, a thermal imaging system refined over 40 million years. In the Everglades, nothing warm-blooded hides for long. Raccoon populations dropped 99.3%, opossums 87.5%, bobcats 87.5%. These are not estimates from activists. These are findings published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. One invasive species, one ecosystem, a collapse so total it rewrote the food web in under 2 decades. What happens when this pattern repeats across an entire continent, not once, but dozens of times simultaneously? North America hosts more than 6,500 established non-native species, plants, insects, fish, reptiles, mammals. More than any other continent, most arrived in the last 150 years. The rate of new arrivals is accelerating. August 24, 1992. Hurricane Andrew makes landfall south of Miami as a Category 5 storm. Among the structures destroyed, multiple exotic reptile breeding facilities, the pythons that escaped or were released by panicked owners, would become the founding population of an apex predator with no natural enemies. A single female Burmese python produces up to 100 eggs per clutch. She can reproduce annually for over 2 decades. In an ecosystem with no predator capable of killing an adult python, population growth follows a single trajectory: exponential. Current population estimates between 100,000 and 300,000 Burmese pythons in South Florida. The uncertainty itself is diagnostic. There are too many to count. Eradication is no longer discussed as a realistic goal. 2,600 kilometers north of the Everglades, a different invasion is unfolding. Not in the water, in the wood. The emerald ash borer arrived in Michigan around 2002. What it set in motion will take another decade to fully understand. The beetle almost certainly arrived inside solid wood packing material, shipping pallets crating from northeastern China. It went undetected for years because inspectors were looking for pests on cargo, not inside the crates carrying it. The adult beetle is harmless, but the larvae burrow beneath the bark and feed on the cambium, the living tissue that transports water and nutrients. Within 3 years, the tree's vascular system is severed. Recovery is not possible. By 2024, the emerald ash borer had spread to 35 states and 5 Canadian provinces. Estimated ash tree mortality exceeds 100 million. Roughly 1/3 of all ash trees on the continent are dead or dying. The infestation front advances 10 to 20 kilometers per year. Think of an ecosystem as an operating system, lines of code refined over millions of years, each species a subroutine connected to dozens of others. Remove one species and the system compensates. But an invasive species doesn't just remove, it rewrites. The python removes rabbits, but rabbits disperse seeds, remove seed dispersers, and plant species fail to regenerate. Native plants decline. The insects that depended on them vanish. The birds that ate those insects follow. One predator doesn't subtract from the system. It cascades through it. The ash borer kills trees, but 43 species of insects feed exclusively on ash: sawflies, weevils, leaf-mining moths. As ash populations collapse, these specialists face extinction. The birds that preyed on those insects lose their food source. The network doesn't just shrink, it unravels. A crashed operating system can be rebooted from backup, but ecosystems have no backup. Every extinction is permanent. Every severed connection rewrites the system into a simpler, more fragile state. The damage is not repairable, it is final. Here is the complication. Climate models from the US Geological Survey project that warming winters will expand the Burmese python's viable range northward, potentially into Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, within decades. The invasion is not contained. It is waiting. This is the python's current range in Florida. This is suitable habitat under 2 degrees Celsius of warming, a threshold we will likely reach by 2050. The entire Gulf Coast becomes viable. Parts of California, the invasion hasn't peaked. It hasn't even finished spreading. Ash wood is not decorative lumber, it is structural. Baseball bats, tool handles, electric guitar bodies, furniture. The American ash timber industry generates $25 billion annually. By 2030, viable ash supply will have collapsed. The beetle is rewriting not just an ecosystem, but an economy. The Lacey Act of 1900 prohibits importing injurious species, updated in 2012 to include Burmese pythons. But US Customs physically inspects less than 2% of arriving cargo. The regulatory structure exists. The enforcement capacity does not. The structural problem is clear. Every importer benefits from faster, cheaper shipping. The cost of an introduced pest falls not on the shipper, but on ecosystems, taxpayers, and future generations. The profit is private. The consequence is public. This is not negligence. It is rational behavior inside a broken incentive structure. Most invasions follow the same pattern, a lag phase lasting 10 to 20 years while the population establishes. During this window, eradication is possible, but detection usually happens after the window closes. By the time the invasion is visible, it is already irreversible. Here is what the textbooks haven't caught up to yet. In 2011, researchers coined the term trophic downgrading, the cascade of effects when apex predators vanish. They documented how removing wolves changed the physical course of rivers in Yellowstone. What the python is doing to the Everglades isn't just biological, it's geological. Florida's python elimination program pays hunters $13 per hour plus a bonus per snake. Since 2017, hunters have removed roughly 17,000 pythons, the estimated population 200,000 minimum. The removal rate is between 1 and 2% annually. The snakes reproduce faster than hunters can kill them. With small mammals depleted, pythons have shifted to larger prey. Researchers have documented pythons consuming white-tailed deer and American alligators. The Everglades' remaining large fauna is now on the menu. The predator hierarchy that took 10,000 years to stabilize is being dismantled in decades. Fewer mammals means more surviving ticks. The predator pressure that kept tick populations in check is gone. Early research suggests Lyme disease risk may increase in regions where mammalian hosts have been eliminated. The python does not bite humans. Its effects might still make them sick. The Everglades provides drinking water for 8 million people, 1/3 of Florida's population. The ecosystem's vegetation filters pollutants from agricultural runoff. As the food web simplifies, plant community composition shifts. Filtration capacity degrades. This is not an environmental issue isolated in nature. It is infrastructure. Between 2015 and 2021, American municipalities spent over $850 million removing dead ash trees, hazardous standing timber in parks, along streets, in schoolyards. The trees didn't just die, they became liabilities. The beetle turned municipal forestry budgets into crisis response. Cities replant with resistant species, honey locust, oak, maple. But those species do not host the 43 ash specialist insects. The birds that ate those insects do not return. Replanting replaces the aesthetic. It does not restore the function. The ecosystem remains simplified. The python is not alone. Asian carp are rewriting the Mississippi River food web. Zebra mussels have colonized all 5 Great Lakes. The spotted lanternfly has infested vineyards across the Northeast. These invasions are not isolated. They are overlapping, interacting. The continent is experiencing not one invasion, but a superposition of dozens, all at once. The US Fish and Wildlife Service estimates invasive species cost the American economy $120 billion annually in crop damage, forestry losses, infrastructure repairs, and control efforts. For comparison, that exceeds the annual budget of the Department of Homeland Security. This is the answer to the question posed at the start. The pattern is replicating, not potentially. Now, the Everglades is not an isolated failure. It is a preview. What is happening there is happening simultaneously across the Great Lakes, the Mississippi Basin, the Northeast forests, the Pacific coast. We are witnessing a continental reorganization. Here is the uncomfortable truth ecologists don't advertise. The honeybee, symbol of pollinator conservation, is itself an introduced species brought from Europe in the 1600s. The native baseline we defend was shaped by centuries of human introduction. The line between native and invasive is not natural, it is chosen. The engine driving this reorganization is not carelessness, it is commerce. 50,000 cargo ships cross oceans annually. Each one carries ballast water containing thousands of aquatic organisms. Each wooden pallet may harbor beetle larvae. Every shipment is a lottery ticket for the next invasion. The question is not whether new invaders arrive. It is how quickly they destabilize what remains. Remember the 43 insect species that depend exclusively on ash. Entomologists have a term for their situation: committed to extinction. The host tree is dying. The insects cannot adapt in time. The extinctions have not been recorded yet because the monitoring doesn't exist. They are vanishing unobserved. The headline writes itself, "Species go extinct." But that framing misses the mechanism. Species do not vanish in isolation. Connections break, networks fragment, complexity collapses into simplicity. What we are losing is not a list of animals. It is the architecture of relationship between them. And that architecture, once dismantled, does not rebuild. Ecologists call this regime shift. A system pushed past a threshold flips into a fundamentally different state. It is not gradual decline, it is phase transition. And once it happens, it does not reverse. The concept applies beyond ecology, to economies, to societies, to any complex system stripped of its stabilizing mechanisms. The uncomfortable implication is this: restoration to a prior state may no longer be possible. What ecologists are beginning to describe instead is novel ecosystems, communities of species that have never coexisted before, stabilizing around new relationships. The wilderness of the future will not be a return to the past. It will be something else entirely. We build bridges and budget for their maintenance. We build electrical grids and budget for their upkeep. Ecosystems are infrastructure. They filter our water, regulate our climate, cycle our nutrients. But there is no maintenance budget, no inspection schedule. The infrastructure is failing, and the failure was not accidental. It was unfunded. In 2012, researchers stopped finding marsh rabbits in python territory. At the time, it seemed like data from one species in one place. It was not. It was a signal. The first transmission in a pattern that would repeat across species, across regions, across the continent. The signals have not stopped arriving. We have simply stopped knowing how to read them. We walk through these forests and swim in these waters, thinking we see North America as it has always been. But we're looking at a ghost. The silent hunters aren't just visitors. They are the new authors of our landscape. If you've noticed a change in the woods behind your house, a bird you've never heard, or a plant that shouldn't be there, share your story in the comments. Let's map out this quiet revolution together. Subscribe to the deep narrative. The story is changing, and you don't want to miss the next chapter.